Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focused Radio. This is your host, Martin Friedman, and I'm excited today to be joined by one of our newest facilitators and members of our team, Daniel Jahn. How you doing, Daniel?
Man, I'm doing great, Martin. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you, man. You and I have had a couple conversations on Instagram Live, and now it's my turn to interview you a little bit. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, me too. And I got to be honest, man. I'm even more excited because you pulled me away from 30 yards of bark that is sitting outside my house right now that I got to move around the yard, man. So I'd much rather be talking to you than doing that.
30 yards of bark, that should be nothing for a trainer of your caliber, right? To
Oh
probably
my goodness.
actually, what you should do is just get somebody that you train to come over and just tell them it's a new form of exercise. The bark
Oh
the
man.
bark carry the bark carry.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, because this week at the gym, I'm asking everybody, like, okay, well, what are you doing this weekend? You want to come join me?
I'm telling you, man. Sometimes I think trainers. I told you're training a mutual friend of ours. Well, people that listen here know Dustin really well, our vice president and co-founder of Soul Focus Group. And I was telling him the other day that I really think trainers. I think you all have meetings where you like sit around and like come up with new ways to like torture your clients. You know what I'm saying? And just like or just like what can we do to what can we do to have fun with them? You know what I'm saying? Like let's get them to come over and move stuff around our yard. That
Uh,
I really believe that's what you all do. I'm sorry, I really believe
Man, I'll
that.
tell you one better than that, man. Actually, we have dreams about it. Okay, we will literally dream about exercises to take folks through.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's running through the mind, man. It's always running through the mind.
No, that's hilarious. I was getting trained right before I left Seattle. I was getting trained by this guy at the 24-hour fitness close to my house, and he was good. He was a good trainer too, and he was training me up to support the martial arts that I was doing at the time, and I still do when I can. But he had me doing these 6 pound weights. I weighed like 315 pounds, right? And he
Okay.
had me doing these 6 pound weights, like isolating certain muscles in my shoulders, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here I am, like 315-pound dude, and I can't complete a set at 6 pounds. And I'm like, I know you're doing this on purpose, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Like you get with your trainer friends, and you're like, watch, I can get this 315-pound dude to not be able to do 6 pound barbell exercises. I really, yeah, I really, you're gonna have to really convince me that you all don't that you all don't plot that stuff. Daniel.
Yeah, the human body is an amazing thing, man. It's an amazing thing. The brain is an amazing thing, So it's fun trying to figure out ways to challenge, the body and for me the mind too. And there's just
Yes.
the body can do 8 billion things, right? I mean, it's infinite, the movements that we can make. So for us, man, it's you guys are just like an open drawing board, man. We love to do it, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I mean, really, we get enjoyment out of the success too, though. It's the
Yeah, I know you
challenge,
do.
but then it's the success that really drives us.
No, I know you do, and I hope you and everybody listening knows I'm just teasing because obviously, like the physical training, has been life changing for me. About halfway through the pandemic, I hooked up with somebody when I was living in Pittsburgh, and virtually he trained me on TRX straps, and that was like just life changing for my core and stuff. And I part of my losing 60 pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really yeah. I hope you and everybody knows I'm just joking when I say that. It's just sometimes it feels that way, man. I'm not going to lie to you because it's
Yeah,
like
no.
you
We love
know,
hearing it, man. We love hearing it. That's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I'm glad. I didn't realize
So
you lost 60 pounds, man.
yeah, I lost 60 pounds and from March, well, really March to like September or November, October, and then I've stayed around there. I haven't gained it back. Well, I haven't gained back more than about 5 pounds, which has been really good. But I'm 100 and I'm almost exactly 100 pounds lighter than I was at my peak. I peaked at 335. That was in 2015, and I'm at right around 235 right now. So,
Man,
but
good for you.
I've been stuck at 295 for a really long time, and it was the pandemic, getting off the road, that really changed my life. So, But this is not about me, Daniel. This is about you. So we've already established you're a trainer. So just tell us your life story a little bit. Tell us who you are.
Yeah.
Let's just get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it, man. And in our industry, it's I'm not actually considered a trainer because I come
Okay.
from the performance training side. So it's kind of an interesting story. I went to the University of Washington here in Seattle,
Yep.
and I intended on So actually, let me backtrack even more. When I was
Yeah.
18, I got the chance for my first chance to cross you and Dustin's path when you guys were with the
Right.
People's Institute. And I did a training there, and I've always been interested in issues of race, and just my folks always talked about it, and we learned quite a bit about it growing up. And so I did the workshop, and that just really sparked something in me. And so when I went to school, I was interested in both the sciences as well as history and sociology.
Right.
And so I played baseball, and I was, intending on going to play pro. And then when I was done, I wanted to, maybe teach. And what happened was I got injured. I was medically disqualified. And when you're medically
Mm.
disqualified, essentially what that means, you get to keep your scholarship and finish school. But what I didn't expect was that the baseball staff, as well as the strength and conditioning staff at the university, wanted to hire me right away as a coach. And so at that time, I had, history and sociology and a minor in physics, but I did not have any exercise science in my background.
Right.
And that was because the University of Washington actually does not have an exercise science program. They cut it back in the early 80s. And so anybody who goes into this field at the university typically goes, the biology, the zoology, the physiology, and the anatomy. And for those who are listening, the University of Washington has an amazing medical school. And so typically folks, study those subjects. They go on to med school or actually we have a great PT school too. So that's the track they're on. So the coaches, they reached out and they said, "Hey, man, we'd love for you to join the team and coach. We see a lot of value in what you bring and the way you communicate." And so then I had to go back and sit in on the anatomy and the physiology, and I'd already just about finished my degrees, and essentially get all the certifications that were required to become a strength and conditioning coach at the college level.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I did that, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then I left in 2006, and I went to run a nonprofit organization that actually helped train kids who couldn't afford it. I had a buddy of mine
Mm.
playing for the Seahawks at the time. He had a passion for helping youth in need, and had this nonprofit and didn't know what to do with it. So we connected up and started running some programs. And at the same time, I started training on my own, and a year after, opened my own performance training business called Maximum Sports Conditioning, and we've been
Okay.
open about 15 years. But so along my journey, I've always had this passion for issues of race and justice, and so I volunteered a lot of my time and sat on several racial equity teams, and I was on 3 different nonprofit boards and did a lot of
Nice.
mentoring and stayed pretty active in the community. So that's kind of that eventually brought me to connect with you guys, which is another story. So I'll take a pause and let you jump in here, brother, just for a moment,
Nice.
because we got
Nice.
we got a
Nice.
lot to talk about, and I'm super excited to share, man. So
That's awesome. No, really, and like I said, really, we just want to get to know you. So I apologize for mislabeling who you are and what you do, and I appreciate you clearing that up. And that's a powerful story, because I think part of the reason why it's such a powerful story for me is, so many people that get injured, promising athletes, especially, athletes of color and men of color, especially, who get injured, often, don't have a good outcome. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
So I think it's a great story in the fact that you weren't able to sort of realize your athletic potential, but you were able to channel it into something that's been really positive for you on a lot of different levels. And I think that's a powerful story. Look, I used to volunteer in the prisons in Washington State when I lived out there.
Mm,
And there was a lot of, I worked with an organization called a group called Black Prisoners Caucus. And so it was mostly Black men that we would go work with up there. And, I can't tell you how many of the Black men that were up there had been star athletes.
hmm.
And something had happened, whether it was an injury or whether they got busted doing something.
Yeah.
But like the prisons are littered with Black men who didn't realize their athletic potential. So I'm really sitting with that part of your story right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it. It was a gift and a curse for me. I think the,
Mm-hmm.
the, the coaching part, the teaching part, the inspiring, the motivating part was always what I gravitated to, even as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I got that opportunity, it was exciting for me, and it's helped build me into what I am today. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of the greatest joys that I have is to help empower people, physically and mentally. So, like I said, it's a gift and a curse, and I had a lot of direction too. I mean,
Right.
it's one thing to dedicate your entire life to something
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly lose it and really not have anybody to catch you when you fall, and
Mm.
I think that
Right.
happens all the time, right? I mean, we all, the only thing that's guaranteed in life is change, right? So we all hit
Mm.
these spots in our life where, whether we stumble or we fall flat on our face or whether we just change direction, there tends to be people in our corner that can help steer us. And I see so many folks that don't have that support and are not lucky enough to have those folks in their life. Because I mean, shoot, a lot of it is luck, man. Having the
Yeah.
right people, around you at the right time, can be luck a lot of times. And so I'm real appreciative of the folks in my family and the folks that were around me that help let me know that no matter what I do, I will continue to be the empowering person that you know that they saw that I was. And it's funny. You just it makes me think about a quote from a hip hop song that I like a lot, which is that you are not what you do, what you are is how you do it. And
Mm.
that always resonated with me. I figured, whether I'm coaching or teaching or helping people talk about issues of race, it's all about how you do it.
Right.
So or
Right.
running a business, right? It don't matter. So, but anyway, yeah, man, I'm definitely thankful for the support I had.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's choices too, right? I mean, yeah, the support is beautiful, but there's people with support that don't make those choices. And
Yeah.
we talk a lot at Soul Focus Group about the choices. We also talk a lot at Soul Focus Group about the difference between what we are and who we are, which I think
Mm,
is evident in that quote that you just said too. So you just told us a lot of the what you are, right?
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about the who are you? Who is Daniel John? Like kind of at your core,
Yeah.
let's let's get a little bit deeper because I love that about all the people that are part of our team is that everybody's really interested in depth. We're all interested in depth. So tell us a little bit more about the who you are.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate the question. It's not
Yeah.
asked of me very often, man.
Right.
And I think one thing that I've learned over the course of this last year is that I'm still on my journey. I'm still figuring it
Mm.
out, and consider it a lifelong journey. And I'm always discovering new interests and new difficulties and new strengths. And so, it's exciting for me. But I'll tell you, like at my root, I am somebody who likes to see people overcome.
Mm. Hmm.
And I like to see inspired people, and I like to see people, setting goals and reaching them. And I like to see people learning, and that those things give me energy, and they give me joy, and I love connecting with people. I'm a people guy.
Mm. Hmm.
Well, I think even the way that my business has evolved and developed, the model that we use is very people focused and people oriented. rather than systems and programmatically oriented. We're very focused on who it is that's coming in, where they're at, and that's what's always attracted me to that industry, is just my ability to build relationships with people. That was one of the hardest things for me during this COVID year. I don't do well with isolation.
Right, right.
I need to be around people. I need to be. I mean, I'll tell you, even the mask thing is the hard. One of the hardest things about the mask thing for me was realizing that one of the ways that I communicate with people is through my smile. And
Hmm.
it was, I didn't really, so it took me, Martin, I'll be honest, man, it took me several months. I'm like, what, man, this is so hard for me to wrap my brain around. Why is it, And then I
Hmm.
started thinking, well, man, it's like when I use my smile when I come across people I don't know, when I come across
Right.
people I know, and it was almost like taking a left arm from me because
Hmm.
it was so much a part of who I am, and so for me, not being able to both smile and see people smile was something that I struggled with. So, but at my root, man, I'm I love people. I love solving problems, helping people solve problems. I love solutions. I love inspiring. I love motivation, and really that's why I think I'm here talking to you, because you guys have done that for me, and helped me not necessarily change, but evolve and develop a perspective on a subject that I've always thought a lot about. And it has been, it's liberating, and I feel fired up, man. So hopefully that helps helps folks know a
Yeah.
little bit more about where I'm coming from. But I'm overjoyed to be involved with y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And we really believe that a lot of the problems that we have right now in society are because we focus way too much on the whats of ourselves and each other, and not nearly as much on the whos. Because the
Mm-hmm.
whos, like, that's the real us. That's our souls. That's our spirit. That's our
Mm-hmm.
authentic selves. It's the whats are our race, our gender, our jobs, our geography, the place we're from. It's all of that stuff. But I think the story that you told about your smile, I think that's so, because when we smile, that's a who, that's not a what. I'm saying when it's a real
Mm-hmm.
smile, not when
Yeah.
it's one of those fake smiles. But that is like sharing the essence of who we are with other human beings. Just like I know a lot of people really miss hugging. And
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
know hugging can be all different kinds of things to all different kinds of people. I used to be really uncomfortable hugging, but I think that the essence of, like, when you hug someone, you share energy with them in a way that's not, you can't just get across with words or with a handshake or whatever. So I think
Mm-hmm.
people have really missed the other ways that we communicate besides just words. So I think that's powerful in what you shared.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an energy guy, man, and I feel people's energy. I see it. I want to experience it, and so much of that for me is facial expression and emotion, and so
Right.
it's been an evolution this past year, man. But it's been good, man. It's been very good.
That's awesome. So let's hone in a little bit on the part of your life that's been around racism. Anti-racism. People that listen to this podcast a lot know that at Soul Focus Group we're really transitioning from a conversation and a focus on anti-racism to more like pro-human solidarity, to ending
Hmm.
racism. And I should say, I was part of the anti-racist movement in Seattle for a very long time and other places in the country. So I know you have some DNA in that too, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
mom, I know I met her. I didn't know her real well, but I knew a lot of her colleagues really well. I
Hmm.
know she was a part of that work. And tell us a
Hmm.
little bit more about sort of the DNA of race and racism, and how it's played out in your life growing up where you did and how you did and with who.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's actually kind of interesting, man. I until I was 14 years old, 95% of my experiences were located in pretty much in the Seattle area and in and
Mhm.
around the schools there and the folks that my parents knew, right, and my family were connected with. And so
Right.
very open, very tolerant, very accepting, very progressive. and particularly around, issues of anti-bias in education, early childhood education, anti-racism, history of racism. Those things always came, that we talked about them around the table all the time. And
Yeah.
so when I was 14 years old, there was the first time that I got a chance to play on a select baseball team. And
Hmm.
that select baseball team was outside of Seattle. And all of the kids that played on that team were from, the heavy suburbs of Seattle. So, sometimes 20 miles out, sometimes 30 miles out, but they were not exposed to a lot of kids of color. And
Right.
so for a lot of them, I was the first one. And I had a pretty shocking experience. And it was, I went through some of the, I heard some of the most, amazingly bigoted things that I'd ever heard, and I couldn't. And it was a 16-year-old team. I was 14 playing on a 16-year-old team, so everybody was older than me, and
Right.
I didn't even know how to process it. The things
Right.
that were happening, and it was a deep struggle. And so much so that I came back the next year. I said, okay, you know what? That was that. I mean, I'd come home crying sometimes. I didn't, but I never shared it with my parents. Didn't let anybody know. So the
Hmm.
next year I vowed. I said, okay, you know what? This is never going to happen again. Anybody who talks any kind of mess, all I'm going to do is just fight them. I'm just flat out.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. I'm swinging, and I'm going to put a stop to this.
Hmm.
And sure enough, it took only a couple of days, but there I was. I swung, and it kind of went down. And then from that point on, they all realized, okay, maybe this is not as acceptable as it was the prior year.
Right.
And so things started to, die down. But for a long time, I lived in this space of like, you're ready to fight. I'm like,
Hmm.
anybody says anything crazy, I'm ready to fight. And so then I took the workshop when I was 18 with you guys, and
Hmm.
it helped teach me even more, and I learned more. And I got to college, and I was honestly I was amazed by how I felt like I was on an island in college too. There was hardly any black folks at the University of Washington, which was
Right.
surprising to me, being it was in Seattle. And so, I gravitated to the other folks of color on campus, and I think, that was really what drove me towards doing more African American history and sociology too. And so, but I was still in this mode of like, okay, let's ignore, what's happened in history. Why is the wealth gap the way it is? Why is the education gap the way it is? Why do we have all of these problems? And all of this bigoted, mean spirited, crap is what's driving it, and that's the problem. And so I need to, figure out how to fix that. And so I lived most of my life thinking that the problems around racism and systemic racism in our country were driven by, like folks that all voted for Trump, right? It's like, okay, it's got to be the people that really, it's all white identity stuff, and they hate, they don't like me or anybody who looks like me, and they're not the Klan, but they're close. And
Right.
so, we need to make sure that they understand what's going on. And if the more we teach them and the more we show them, then the more things will change. And
Right.
so I lived that way for a while, right? And then George Floyd happens. Honestly, it's pretty much that's how my perspective was up until George Floyd. And when George Floyd happened, some things shifted. The first one, of course, was, I was always very open to talking with folks that I didn't necessarily have political beliefs. I didn't share the same political beliefs. I was always open to talking to them. And
Yeah.
so, especially about race. And so when it happened, everybody wanted to talk, right? And
Right.
so I started doing that, and I talked more. And then I had a experience with a client and friend of mine, who has a large Instagram following, and she asked me to come on to her Instagram page and do an interview and talk about
Right.
these issues. And so it kind of grew from there. And so I just, I continued, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. And so I started a little Instagram page to help people talk about race a little bit more. And so I continued to talk and learn. And I presented a few times at the National Strength and Conditioning Association, or for them on issues of cultural awareness. And I joined some other committees. So I'm doing all this work, and I get to like the fall of 2020. And
Hmm.
I'm looking in the mirror. I'm thinking, you know what? Something is not quite clicking here, because, you know, at the same time that we are in the midst of the largest racial justice uprising in our history, and we need to acknowledge that. And there's been a lot of policies and procedures and things that have been passed and have shifted, and things are moving in the right direction. At the same time, I felt like at the root of the problem, or at the root of the issue behind systemic racism, I felt like the root really wasn't being uprooted, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? It wasn't
Right.
changing. There was many people who I feel were in the middle. And when I say the middle, I feel like they want more racial unity and equity, but they don't quite believe or agree with some of the methods that a lot of the anti-racist movement and the DE&I work that's being done has gone on, but then they definitely don't agree with kind of the extreme right, or the people that are just essentially the ones saying, well, it's all it's biological, and it's only behavior. It's just these people of color. It's just their problem, right? They're not there, but so they're kind of in the middle. And for me, those were always the most interesting conversations to have, because I could see things shift for them. I could watch them evolve when they understood a little bit more, and they'd get a little bit more kind of excited about being a part of it. But what I wasn't seeing was I wasn't seeing what I believed to be things that were going to create real transformational change.
Right.
And so I asked myself, well, why is that? What's happening? Okay, let me back up here for a second. And I said, okay, if implicit bias is such a major issue, and I know that I have it, and I know that we all have it, and we're asking people to to be introspective and to identify it and to catch it and to be able to modify behavior. I really need to check myself a little bit more here, because I need to get more in touch with how difficult it is to actually be able to identify things in you, that are somewhat could be harmful, or that are driven by, implicit bias, and what kinds of habits do I have? And I started to realize that it's really hard. It's not easy to
Right.
be able to check your, subconscious programming, your groundwater, as you guys say, right? And
Yeah.
so then I said, well, man, if I'm having a hard time checking myself, and we live in a system that has allowed white folks not to ever really have to grapple with issues of race, it must be much harder for them.
Hmm.
So then I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe if we change the messaging, maybe they will receive it in a different way, and it will make it easier to alter behavior. And so I'm doing all this while I'm figuring this out. I'm looking inside, and I'm thinking, okay, and I'm trying to check myself, all the time. And then I was presented with you guys. So Cindy Edwards, connected me with you guys through this Instagram. And
Right.
I sat in on the workshop, the Healing from Racism workshop that you guys have done. And it was like a light went off for me. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is what it is. We can't ask people to do really difficult things and things we've never done before without at some point empowering them and inspiring them and working to unify. How can we create equity if we can't create unity? And how can we do this if white folks aren't going to just buy in and jump in? If they feel like they're doing this for someone else, if they feel like they don't really get a benefit out of it, if they don't see the connection between what's happening for people of color in the racial justice movement and themselves and moving forward,
Right.
and I just don't see how we're going to create this monumental change here and recreate a culture in our society that sees everybody as valuable in the same ways. Doesn't matter what your skin color is. You walk down the street, I am you and you are me. We are
That's right.
we, and that's very, very different for this society. And in order to do that, it takes work, it takes empowerment, it takes inspiration, it takes teaching. And that's what I saw from y'all. And so that's why I bought in right away, and I'm going to keep buying in, bro.
That's right. That's right. Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on this journey with us because it's obviously you are because you're so much in alignment with what we're doing. I want to just, before we close out, you said something I appreciated, that whole journey that you share with us. And, I want to just go back for a minute before we close out and like, take me back to when you were, 14, 15 years old and you were dealing with those issues of overt bigotry, right? With these kids that
Mm-hmm.
you had never dealt with before. Why was it that you didn't talk to your parents? Like, do you remember what was going through your mind? Because you had parents that were supportive of you, right? And then talked about that a lot. And I'm just curious what was going on for you, if you can remember why you made that decision to not tell them what was happening.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think knowing my folks, I don't remember. I think I've got a teenager now, and I
Yeah,
see from a parental perspective, that teenagers at that age they don't like sharing everything with their parents. I think, but then also I think inside of me, I didn't want to draw any extra attention to me because I knew my parents would not allow it. They wouldn't stand for it, and
right.
they would have put the coach on blast. They would have put the team on blast. And so for me, I was like, okay, I don't want that to happen. I want to fit in. I want to, this is a great
Gotcha.
opportunity as an elite level team. And, and I was I was the youngest kid on the team. I just didn't want to go there. I'm,
Got you.
imagining, and I don't, I'm trying to bring myself back. I don't remember all of the things
Yeah.
that were going through my head, but those are the things that I'm guessing were driving my behavior.
Did you ever tell them later on?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you better not have them listen to this podcast then, huh?
Well, my pops passed a few years ago, so he,
Oh, I'm
he
sorry.
took it to the grave on that one. But maybe my mom will hear this, and then maybe
Yeah.
we'll have some conversations.
Yeah, but I get it though. I just was curious because like I said, I know your mom just a little bit, but and even more so, I know the folks she hung with, and I know they would have, like you said, they would have come strong on it. So I was just really curious why you made that choice, and it makes sense. Definitely
Yeah,
through the eyes of a 14, 15-year-old teenage boy, especially in the athletic world, it does make sense. I was just curious. I just wanted to see if you'd share with us. I
yeah,
appreciate you sharing and appreciate you sharing that story with us too, because I think it's powerful. And I think just what I really felt was how alone you must have felt, even with your supportive family. Like you talked about, it was the supportive family that helped you, when you realized you weren't going to go into professional sports and you had to find, new ways of being, not just making money, but just new ways of being in the world. And so even with that supportive family, you still felt alone. And that's why, racism can be such a function of separateness and isolation, So that just really struck me. I wanted to follow up on that just a little bit.
yeah. No, for sure. And I've gotten so much more. I mean, really, since I've connected with y'all, I've gotten so much more in touch with how the effects of racism on our entire community.
Yeah,
I was very in touch with it as far as black folks go and other people of color, but now I'm really understanding what it's done to the white community too, and how it's damaged the white community as well, and all of us, and how it's disconnected us
all
and
of us.
severed our, like you guys say, I mean, just severed our humanity, man. I love that
That's right.
analogy. And so, man, I'm definitely excited to continue the conversation
Yes, sir.
and build and learn, bro.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll pick it up in part two. We'll talk a little bit more, about your story and also just about how you're applying this work, these ideas to your work, and really how you're on a journey like the rest of us to return us all to our true humanity. Both individually and collectively. That's what this is about for all of us. So I'm excited for part two. We want to thank everybody for listening. We always appreciate you coming on this journey with us. Know that we love you and we care about you, and we're excited to be on this journey with you to reclaim and return to our humanity. We ask that you come and check us out. Check us out on soulfocusgroup.com. We have a lot of really exciting new offerings. We want you to come see us there. Listen to our podcasts on all the major podcasting platforms, and look for even more to come. And check us out on YouTube too. We're uploading more and more content on YouTube every week as well. So with that, we ask you to stay well. We ask you to stay safe. And most of all, we ask you to stay soul focused.